Hi. So today we are here back discussing the digital transformation. In my last session, I was a guest of Mr. Xavier, and he asked about general digital transformation initiatives, challenges, what digital transformation is, how you could make it success, what are the most important points, the technologies and stuff. But today, I have my colleague and partner, Mr. Dr. Kuldip. Hi, how are you, sir?
I'm I'm fine, Mudassir. Lovely to join you.
Thank you. The objective for today's session and a series of sessions is to focus on the IT function. Yes, digital transformation initiative has to be run and led by the top, but at the end of the day, it's a technical thing, so a technical department which enables you to digitally transform or become a transformed organization or become an agile organization. So here the focus is IT function. How a leader in IT function can help an organization. What does he or she needs to do in their department? So let's start with the first discussion point, that is, what do you think a digital transformation mean for CIO or a leader of an IT department?
Thank you, Mudassir. That's a really interesting and thought-provoking question. Now, in many cases, I think organizations view digital in different ways. And if you don't mind, I'm going to try to define digital. So digital is about enhancing the end user customer experience and using technology to do that. But it also means a little bit more than that. It also means having a mindset or having a culture that embodies people understand the value of why you are using disruptive technologies to bring about change. So I thought it's important to kind of just put that on the table first to answer your question, because the challenge in many cases for the IT department is to become, as you said, the enabler or the partner or the leader for digital change. If you look across the world, across sectors, organizations are now trying to become digital, and they're trying to go on this digital transformation journey. And it's not just, as I said before, it's not just about bringing in the right system and the right infrastructure and technology. It's having a mindset that says we're going to use technology to enhance that customer experience. And the enabler or the department that you mentioned there, the IT function, has invariably a number of challenges. And those challenges are aligning that IT department to the business or digital agenda with the senior leadership team. So the challenges can be manifold, because the perception of IT from the business and how IT perceives the business is very different, and there's a gap to bridge in that scenario. So let me just give you some of the challenges. Sometimes there's no technology strategy that aligns to the digital strategy. The skills and capabilities in the IT department are missing. For example, a lot of organizations are now looking to use data as a new oil to understand what they can change and how they can improve performance. And IT typically is managing a whole plethora of systems and lots of data flow through it, and they can't really understand or get a golden record. So some other challenges, there's usually maybe a target operating model, or the future's not well defined. Some of the underlying infrastructure needs modernization. The system's a bit out of date, they're not, and so forth and so forth. So the chance to kind of just nail your question, I think the challenge for the CIO is to turn the IT department into that enabling partner role with the business while keeping everything else running. So it's about stability and agility. How do you get that balance right? Especially.
So, I mean, I understand that there are a lot of challenges when it comes to CIO because he might have legacy systems infrastructure in place. Then the technology is fast changing, and he might need to come up with new solutions every now and then. How you have touched the point, and I want to actually go a little bit deep on it, is that what role as an IT department can play to help organization to achieve market leadership. You explained that you should have a digit IT strategy as along with the business strategy. So would you mind go a little bit deeper in what role IT can play? I mean, what does enabler means? Because I do see that IT needs to actually become a leader in this form of business today, rather than just making them, rather than only enabling the business. So, what is the
Yeah.
role of IT?
Yeah, let me give you 4 or 5 examples. Yeah,
Please.
to in that digital space. So you can use technology that the IT department to, for example, improve digital marketing. How do you reach out to new customers and understand the market through using internal marketing tools? And there's a lot of marketing tools out there now, a lot of agile, flexible, SaaS-based solutions. And digital marketing has become one of the pillars of digital. Yeah. You can use technology to give you be more effective and efficient. So what that really means is about becoming more productive. How do you put in, for example, systems and the right culture and approach into a contact center, and how that feeds into your IT service management um, processes in IT, and how you reach out to citizens, residents. So how can you make things, this channel shift concept of moving, providing knowledge to your end users faster, quicker, so that they can access that knowledge. And it's through technology. You use that through technology. So you've got digital marketing, you've got this channel shift of productivity. And another area is how you can use technology to give you differentiation. So you could be in a very fast moving agile market sector. And let me give you, there's examples out there. There's Deliveroo, Uber, and all these organizations that came into their sector and disrupted that sector.
Yes.
And they gave that enhanced customer experience, but they enabled it through technology. Now, with Uber or Deliveroo, for example, you can order a taxi, you can pay for it there and then the guy picks you up, he drops you off, contactless in a way.
Yes.
That gave that company differentiation, and they was again enabled through technology. So you've got, I'm just going to rephrase, we have the digital marketing piece, we have the channel shift, the productivity gains for technology. Then you use technology as a differentiation. That's the third pillar. And the fourth area I wanted to kind of just give you as an example in that enabler role is how you can use technology as access through channels. You can have telephony as a channel, you can have social media as a channel, you can have proprietary systems that reach out to your customers. So you're getting outreach, so you're connecting with your end user customers quicker, faster, better. So digital channels is a fourth area of digital. So I hope that's given you a little bit of a flavor of some of the areas of a little bit more detail around the digital
Yes,
concepts.
I mean, true. So it means that actually today IT is not enabling organizations to be digitally agile, but they are actually, if from my perspective, we say it is enabling the end customer to do better things, to be more efficient, like you have given example of cars, and you have given examples of the supply chain. It is actually enabling the end customer to be more productive.
Hmm.
It is helping end customer more than it is helping organization, and organizations are creating differentiation for themselves to
Yeah.
actually take a leadership role in the market. IT department or CIO or IT directors, they that department is usually under finance. They were not the people who used to be part of the strategic discussions of an organizations. And I do see that it is changing lately because their inputs are very, very important. Why do you think it is very important that IT needs to come out of all this shadows and umbrellas, and to have a proper and a permanent seat on the strategy table for a better for an organization to work or perform better?
I think there's a number of aspects here, and you're right. The research data is suggesting that slowly but surely the CIO is becoming part of that C-suite strategic partner with the business, sitting on the board level. The last time I looked, that's a couple of years ago, I think 56% of CIOs were part of the board, and that varies. That's a kind of summed up view, but it was less than 56% in some sectors, particularly public sector, and higher in the more kind of private sector. Now, traditionally, IT departments have been seen as cost centers, and that's why I think they ended up in the CFO under the CFO banner, and because they were being managed in terms of can we get more with less. So they were
Yes,
being squeezed. They were being squeezed for efficiency, that efficiency, productivity side. Can we automate business processes and get cost savings from technology? And that's how they were used. Not
yes,
in that enable. You know what you said, which was fundamental. They were not being seen as the enabler. They were
yeah,
seen as the cost center. But
true.
now that with the digital mindset starting to pervade across organizations and sectors, and the understanding that you're going to get disrupted if you don't get disrupted, it's well, it's not when, it's not if you're going to get disrupted, it's just when you're going to get disrupted.
It's just a win.
So yeah, and how do you and now they understand that technology can really be that enabler. So the CIO is slowly been creeping up, I'd say, the importance agenda. So that's one angle. But the other important thing is the CIO or his department, the IT function, is really critical in the sense that if you think of what the IT department, it cuts right across the business. It sees all the business functions and units. It'll work with marketing, with finance, with HR, with operations, the front office. It sees the end-to-end business processes, and actually it can enable the customer journey. So why wouldn't you, if you can have a department that can cut right across your organization or has an impact, surely they are ideally placed to be the ones that enable it, right?
Fair enough.
As the enabler. Yes. So those are the two things I think are important to understand. Um, but the challenge, Mudassir, isn't the technology. It's having the business skills from an IT perspective to show the value and the benefits. So it's a cultural problem.
Fair
You
enough.
know, that mindset.
True, that mindset and culture is a challenging thing when you want to change stuff. Before going into the CIO function or going into the details that what could CIO do to attain all what we have talked about, I want to have a feedback or to have your understanding that usually change of IT systems is like moving Titanic. it's not your mobile phones, it's not just laptops, it's whole infrastructure. It's networking, it's servers, it is locations, the technology availability, how far are you at. When you have all these things, and I would say as a legacy applications or legacy infrastructure, and then suddenly you are asked to actually move and to help organizations to pivot or to become a market leadership or to become more agile. What should they do? How should IT department behave with all these legacies that they have?
Yeah, it's and I'm gonna answer that question by stepping back to your previous question. So when IT was seen as a cost center, you were being either asked to do more with less. They wouldn't get the investment
True.
to modernize. So what happens in that when you don't get the investment to modernize your systems or your infrastructure, IT would be putting in workarounds, plaster, sticky plaster. Now, the problem with doing sticky plaster and putting in interim solutions and workarounds is you creating technical debt. So what's happened over time is that there's more and more workarounds, and then suddenly the organizations realize they've started having a digital mindset. They want to go on a change, and then they got all this legacy. They've got all these either aging infrastructure or systems or workaround or technical debt, and they have to modernize that to actually give them the competitive advantage through technology. So it becomes a transformational journey of modernization, of consolidating, rationalizing, looking at technology roadmaps and seeing how and when can you change one thing for another that will give more value and benefit. So it becomes, as you said, becomes really difficult.
Yes,
It's not easy.
true. Okay, so we
Are you
have
still there?
talked a lot about all this stuff. Let's go into the team's performances. What should be the, I mean, if we are talking to a CIO or a CIO, he wants to make sure that yes, his department, his team is actually delivering the cutting edge technology or whatever they are asked for. What are the key metrics for IT departments that needs to be taken care of or needs to be monitored actively to make sure that yes, you remain at the top?
Yeah. Another great question, Mudassir. It's so important for, in the scenarios we talked about where you're modernizing and rationalizing, consolidating, you need to have a tech digital strategy which actually lays that out. So you need to get the buy-in at not only the strategic C level, but you need to have those discussions with your team. You need to have the discussions when you're developing the strategy with your infrastructure team, your IT operations team, your development teams, your data teams, your procurement, supplier management teams, and your suppliers and your partners. Because if you're going on this 1, 2, 3, 5 year transformation program, you've got to take people with you. And you've got to have the purpose and the sense and a direction that everybody buys into.
Yes.
And to measure the impact of that change, you need internal IT metrics, but you need business metrics or KPIs. So some of
Yes.
the ones that I think are really important are how is technology improving the end user customer experience?
Yes.
Fundamental,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
based on what we've talked about. Second one, if you're in that modernization journey, you have a lot of legacy systems. You probably have a lot of incidents and problems. So you probably have a lot of instances that are being generated because you got legacy technical debt. How can you, so one thing KPIs I would be advocating is measuring the revenue that how you're reducing the revenue you're losing, for instance. So that's a really important one. I think understanding and measuring the impact of technology on business profitability and revenue growth. Because there's one thing about getting the IT department stable and that modernization, but you've also got to deliver new functions and features and systems that may give extra value or benefit to your end users. So you got to measure the revenue, turning your IT department from a reactive one to a proactive, aligned to the business and helping it grow is an important one. So revenue and profitability, and having those and tracking and monitoring those are really important.
So if I try to count, so you have actually said that there are technically we need to see customer satisfaction, that is how satisfied your end customers are. You need to look at the revenues of an organization where you are actually working. Then it could be a profitability margin, and the most important item that is a revenue lost, that what have we lost in terms of that we could have gained if we have the right systems in place and if we have the right productive teams or productive elements in place.
Absolutely.
One thing that we have touched earlier, and it just came into my mind, is that you said that the new oil is data. Okay, so I was reading Forbes yesterday, and they are suggesting that data is a new money, and its security is becoming a challenge. How do you see? Because that is the most important part of the CIO. You can have everything in place, but if you don't have a data security policy or a strategy in place, or a proper infrastructure in place, then you can lose anything. So what do you suggest in terms of data security? How important it is? What strategy would you advise?
Yeah, it's become a real issue for businesses, right? I think data is now perceived as you said quite rightly, say the new oil, because it allows, if you can get insights from data, you can look at how you can improve strategically or operationally your business. But there's also personal data, there's financial data that we reside in our companies and organizations, right? So we've got to be able to protect from the active extrusion of that data. So there's, the dark net, and there are actors out there that are actively, day in, day out, are extracting data from organizations and holding them to ransom. And, there's been loads of regulations. We've had GDPR in Europe, we've had the ICO imposing fines if you don't have good security practices. So I think it's an area which is evolving and has become a mindset shift and change for the board. And I think the way to address the problem is to understand what your data is. What data do you have?
And
what
where
your
it is.
data, where it is, and what's vulnerable. What's assessing your vulnerabilities. You've got to you've got to do your penetration testing. You've got to do your continuous monitoring of that data in your shared drives, in your folders, in the cloud. Is it Amazon? Is it GCP? Who's holding my data where? And what tools and technologies have we got in place to monitor and understand that vulnerability, and what controls have we got in place, and hence the information security policy and frameworks that you need to have in place to ensure you're protecting your data from malicious attack and extrusion.
I mean, that is one part, Dr. Kuldip, that we are trying to save organizations from external impact, from external access, from the
Yep.
people who are actually out. But I see that organizations are real weak, or actually they do not focus on the security protocols or the security within an organization. A lot of people have the passwords, they are accessing areas which they should not. Organizations believe that locking some USBs and stopping printers will stop them. But then this is one of the areas that you have an ERP application and you have other applications. Who is accessing what kind of data you are masking, what kind of data is available to whom is very, very important part when it comes to information security. I mean, that is one of the part I see that organizations are usually missing. So let's talk about something, what CIOs can do and this. So how can you see into the future, know the results of your digital and IT transformation decisions before you make? I mean, the reason I'm asking you this question is that as a leader, you do not have unlimited resources. Okay, there is a time, there is a money, you have your resources challenge. You don't have all resources available in terms of human resources. Then you have an infrastructure resources, and at the end of the day, time, money, infrastructure, human resources, they all have an impact on the end customer. The one which you actually said is the most important KPI is the customer satisfaction. How do you think that as a leader, I can see that as a leader, he can see that what kind of decision I will take and what kind of, I mean, so like, it's like a what if scenarios. So what do you suggest?
So let's just frame that. If you are going on the digital IT transformation journey that I've kind of described, you know, you're rationalizing, you're consolidating, you're removing technical debt, you're putting in processes and governance structures. That is a multi-year journey, and it's not easy because, as I said, it's not the processes and the technology, it's the cultural change that you have to go through. It's a mindset change. Now, what I've been doing with a lot of the organizations that I've worked with over the last 10, 15 years is bringing about that cultural mindset shift. It takes time. So what we developed earlier this year was we created a digital transformation simulation platform, and it's a gamification. What we wanted to develop was something low cost, low risk for senior leaders to go on a away day for 4 or 5 hours training in a really interactive, fun way to play out in a client situation during the game, to actually experience the decisions that they work out a number of decisions that they can make and assess the impact of those decisions on the KPIs that you just mentioned. So what we've done with this training platform is created a fictitious company in a market sector and allows people to come and play over 4 or 5 hours of 12 rounds of gameplay, make a whole bunch of decisions based on data, and assess the impact of those on those 4 KPIs: customer satisfaction, you mentioned, revenue growth, profitability, and how they can reduce the revenue that they're losing for instance. And the reason I think that's so great is that what you do through those rounds of play in that fun, competitive environment and low risk is that you're taking 4, 5, 10 people away in a low cost effective way to actually get some experiential learning about some of the decisions that you can make that will impact or could improve your business. So from that training session, you can go back to your organization and said, in this gamification, we learned that this global air company really didn't have a strategy or purpose. They didn't have dashboards. They didn't look at data in a proper way, or they didn't prioritize their critical systems. They weren't focused on the customer. And as we were playing that through with my colleagues, we realized that we don't really do that in our organization, or we could improve on it. And what I'm saying is, half day or 3/4 of day in terms of taking your senior leadership out and spending that time with them is so invaluable, because the return on investment is huge for your leaders to
Makes
be
sense.
aligned strategically. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So the idea that is that, first of all, if we start from that, you have to communicate what the digital transformation organization is about to achieve. Because in the beginning you have mentioned this communication is missing. That every layer within an organization, they need to know that what is happening in an organization, what is an end goal of an organization.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way you could refocus the investments or customer retention or acquisitions, drive up retained revenues? Because in the real world, you are going to make mistakes. How are you going to avoid them? I mean, you can plan to a large extent, but then what will happen in the real world when you make those mistakes?
Well, I would say to you, Mudassir, wouldn't you rather make your mistakes in a gamification in a safe environment before you actually applied them in your organization?
Make sense?
Yeah. Spending 6 hours, or whatever the time is on a learning experience in a safe environment with your colleagues and aligning yourselves is a low cost effective way of actually exploring making the wrong decisions. It is in a simulation training, it's not about going on the right path. You want to go on the right path. We've programmed in it loads of scenarios and data. So whatever strategic operational play you make, and that could be around service management, agile, stability, prioritizing new releases, looking at instant management, problem management, all the learning that we get in the simulation. There's loads of plays, but what you really want to do is, in the context of your business, make the right decision. And in the gamification, you can make loads of wrong decisions. That's okay, because it's safe for you, but you learn from that.
Yes.
Because you can see the impact of that decision on your KPIs. You learn not only from yourself, but from your colleagues as well. And I think that's powerful. That's powerful because it allows you to align and then make the right decisions in your organization in terms of your context.
So, I mean, let's wrap it up. We have talked so many things since we started. One of those important items that on which I want to close, and then I will hand over Kuldip for the last statement, is that digital transformation is not an initiative that is 1 year or a 2 year long. It's a journey. It's a journey that you need to initiate, and then based on the market condition, based on the business requirement, you keep on transforming. And that is the objective, that you come out from the traditional mindset to become an agile mindset. And it's not that you have done a 6 months class or a training session, or some external resources come in and they put you in a pilot room and test it. It's a mindset that you have to achieve. And it's not only for you at a top management. It has to go from top to the person who is standing at the door, the guard. Everybody needs to have their change in the mindset. So, Dr. Kuldip, how stages for you to close the session? Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Some last words.
Yeah, I was just, as you were talking there, I was thinking the simulation training is great for you to make mistakes and learn experientially. And you could be at the beginning of your journey, but you don't have to be in the beginning. You could be in the middle of your journey. And what you might have happened is that you've gone on a path that has derailed your change, your transformation. And so again, the simulation training allows you to come back, reset, rethink, and go again. So don't feel it's something that you just do it once off in the beginning. You could be partially or midway through your transformation, and you just need to reset yourself. And I wanted to kind of just say that the simulation doesn't allow you to make cultural changes or mindset changes, but it forces you to think about the right decisions, to think around the right mindset, and to enforce the right behaviors. I think you have to support that with allowing people to unload. Now, the reason that transformational change projects fail many cases is because it's been tried once, it's been tried twice. You get this legacy culture built up. And what you really need to do is break some of that cultural inertia. And the simulation provides a safe, friendly, competitive environment to learn best practices, how to make the right decisions based on data. It's really you're effectively in it. You're a global airline, and you're competing in a market sector. It's relevant for public and private sector organizations, and we have a number of testimonials from clients that we're very happy to share with you, who've been going on this journey of self-realization of what the art of the possible around the change that Mudassir, you mentioned, is a 1, 2, 3-year program. So please do reach out to us. Please do engage with us. We're very happy to do a demonstration, and we're here to help.
Thank you, Dr. Kuldip. And this is where we conclude our session. And to have those challenges of digital transformation answered, and to have identifying the reasons that why digital transformation initiatives fail or delayed, we are having a free webinar of our survey on 27th, 28th, and 29th of August. Register and let's see you there. Thank you. Bye.